Okay.
So first, let me announce this is Monday, February 27th. It is now 6:32 p.m. and this is the opening of Norton Conservation Commission regularly scheduled meeting. And as with prior, we need to read the obligatory preamble. And Dan, take it away.
Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the end of this agenda. Members of the public attending this public hearing/meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by raising their hand virtually or pressing *9 if participating by phone. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Norton Cable website www.nortonmediacenter.org an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting.
Thank you, Dan. So members participating tonight are myself, Julian Kadish, Chair, along with Lisa Carosa, Vice Chair. We have Dan Pearson, Ron O'Reilly, Mark Fernandez. We have our director, John Thomas, and our assistant director, Megan Harp. And unfortunately, Tom Vest is unable to attend tonight. And we have one vacancy on the commission, and anybody just wishing to join can do so. First item of business on the agenda is 376 Old Colony Road, file number 250-261, an old filing in which there was apparent violations and an enforcement order. And we have Ken Thompson here tonight to present a remediation plan, or mitigation plan. We'll go that way. So Ken, I'm glad your audio works tonight, and let's hear it.
Good evening. My name's Ken Thompson. John, can I share the screen?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you have screen sharing capabilities, Ken.
Okay. Can you see the AutoCAD drawing?
Not quite yet. It's coming. There you go.
Okay. It came up. All right. This is a long linear property that extends from Old Colony Road down to the lake. I'm sorry I don't see my property boundaries up right at the moment, but as part of the enforcement order, which was over 8,000, I'm finding it more like 9,400. And there's two major areas of impact up behind the buildings and in the back here as part of the road construction. I want to zoom in here. We went in and did some soil augers and some test pits up in the upper half of it. In the middle of the project, I'm finding 3 feet of muck with 18 inches to 24 inches of fill on top. It's a good gravel fill. What we're recommending is to come in from this backside here. And if we need to build a road on top of what's already there, just to support the equipment, we will. But to remove all this material, we're going to truck it off site. We decided to truck it off site and then restore the area by exposing existing muck that's available and then regrading it, hummock and hollows, pit and mound, and then replanting it. I have a planting plan here that depicts what you see here, but you know, a combination of 4 different trees and shrubs. It's based on Army Corps. The trees are set at 10 foot on center, and then the shrubs are spread among them. Now, the rear portion of the property, it's more of a hard case road here. We'll remove that road and backfill it with a compost loam mixture. I'm going to block it from draining into this hole down the bottom. It was an over excavated hole, which is now wetlands. The wetlands extend across the road in several areas here. Because I have this image on, you can't see the roadway, but it's basically writing here. So same plan, put the soil back in, and then plant an Army Corps style. There's going to be 2,200 linear feet of silt fence to protect the road and everything. To gain access to the rear of the property, there's a culvert right in this section here, up behind the buildings, and then a wet spot back here. So we'll put metal plates over it to get the dump truck over it, and then timber mats in this area. That's for the enforcement order. Are there any questions I can entertain?
And just to John Thomas, I'm assuming that this addresses all the components of the violation out there, which it dates quite a few years ago, I believe.
Yeah, I think this was a lingering enforcement order since the late 80s, early 90s. And, you know, looking at this site, you can definitely tell that the gravel road, it's not paved or anything, it's a gravel road, and it had some sort of historic fill there. And, you know, in order to bring this site into compliance, I think, you know, kind of what Ken's showing kind of identifies the major areas, and it's mostly associated with the roadway. And I think, you know, based on this, it looks like it would meet or even go further beyond, you know, the removal and replacement for mitigation of what was historically done.
And I'm assuming this has to do with an interest in selling the property and things like that. Is that?
So the property's been purchased by United Excavation and Paving.
Okay.
Family operation. This would be the home of the excavator, not the paving company. That's another member. So they'd like to utilize in long term, come back in with a notice of intent to account for the culvert crossing and this little fill down here, which is, I mean, just a rutted road at this point. As long-term mitigation, we'll mitigate it in approximately right in this area here. But that'll be under a notice of intent. We'll come back in and address that all with the notice of intent. That'd be the remaining 2 areas of impact, which account for about 1,600 square feet. The front area is 6,000, the back area is 35, 34, 80 or something like that. So we'll deal with those 2 small crossings later on as part of a notice of intent. Right now, we're just trying to get the big areas cleaned out, get back under some good graces here. There's a new owner. He wants to do it.
Oh, yeah, I understand. And questions among anyone?
So Ken, I assume you have an engineered stamp plan with all the details that you just outlined, including sequencing for the contractor to bid on?
There will be no contractor. It'll be done by the owner. He's an excavator and I'm a wetland
Right.
scientist.
So you have an engineered stamp plan with
We can.
sequencing? Okay, so
Yeah.
has that been submitted to the commission yet?
I'm not sure. John, did we submit that to you? I've kind of avoided using his plan because it didn't have a lot of good information on it.
Right, so we would need to, you know, your plan has to show where the plating's going, the detail of the sediment controls, the detail of the seeding rates, the planting. We need to be able to compare it when it's done, right, to the as-built, what was done. So we need an engineered plan.
Okay.
I mean, we can't just approve something that's a layer on your,
Yeah,
Your
I understand. I understand what you're saying. That'd be fine. I'll get that straightened out immediately and get it right to you guys.
Okay, so,
But this is the basis, what you're looking at now is the basis of his engineering plan.
okay,
It lacks the detail for road, oh, well, it does have erosion control on it over here. But I'll get that right to you.
yeah, and perhaps the sequencing, perhaps the plate, so everything that you basically, you know, promised us on the aerial, just, you should go on an engineering stamped plan. And then it looks like you have the tree inventory, and what about topo? Is that going, the pit and mound, is that gonna be observed by a wetland scientist in the field as they're going? Or are you calling out for specific grades there?
That would be me in the field. I've got the I mean, on my, like I said, down in here, we had an elevation of 105.6 right in this corner here.
Mhm.
That's where I walked out and just shoved the auger down at least 3 feet without no resistance. So I know I'm going to be traveling. That's the wet zone. And there are hummocks and hollows out here. So I'm going to try to incorporate that air. It depends on what I got. Once I get the stuff off, do I have a big puddle or do I have some material to work with, fluff it up and work with?
Okay, so as part of the sequencing on this plan set, I would ask that it's very clear that they contact you to oversee this work.
Well, I can guarantee I'll be there.
Okay, yeah, I just want it on the plan.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Yeah,
fine. I understand.
And then, so it doesn't look like, so these areas have obviously been filled, so there's no tree clearing required. Is there even for access?
No, it's mainly Russian olive right now and multiflora rose growing through the center section here. There's one area we're going to leave the fill in place. It's right across here. This is an open water area, and John and I think it's a vernal pool. So this has saplings growing out of it and want to keep it for shading purposes.
Mhm.
So we're just trying to stay out of the pool, get in, get out. You know what I mean? And then go back in the spring and plant it up.
Quick,
Okay, so that leads my to my next question. When do you expect to undertake this work?
Yes, sir.
In spring, when you can plant it right away, hopefully?
I'd like to remove it immediately and then come back in the early spring and plant it.
But then it's exposed over the winter.
We'll straw cover it in the interim.
Okay. So please add a detail and put a note accordingly to that.
Can do.
Mhm. Okay. I mean, it sounds like you have a really good plan. You just need to articulate it. You know, it's in your head. You just need to articulate it onto the plan. That's all.
We'll get it done for you.
Okay.
Dan, you had a question?
yes, may I make a comment? Is the multiflora rose to remain? Because that is it's an invasive, I should come clean because it's been growing on my property too, and I have to get rid of it again this spring. But it smells nice and it looks nice, but it is an aggressive invasive plant, as you probably know. So we would hope that you would get rid of it.
We're gonna get rid of it. And you can borrow my tree. You can borrow my tree wrench in the spring. How's that sound?
Okay, that sounds good. I use a scythe, but okay, that sounds good.
Tree wrench, you get the roots.
Oh, well, they sell them at Home Depot.
No, I had to order it online, but you can borrow mine. It's too much money.
Thank you.
No worries. Yeah, and there's Russian olive out there that's also invasive. Any invasives in the area, I'm going to pull and get them out of the way. I won't promise purple loosestrife. We can try it if you want. We can do it with chemicals, but you know, the idea is to get as much as possible in the first round, and then we'll deal with that afterwards.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions? So, if there aren't, then I mean, it sounds like we need to continue this for submission of the specified requested additional information. But I mean, this is pretty straightforward. I mean, you just removing stuff in a clear area, and then you'll be replacing it with appropriate wetland soils. So very straightforward. No
Glad-
further questions. Ken, you have no problem with continuing till,
No, sir, I'll get you the plans in the interim.
so our next meeting is the 13th of March. And with regard to removal and then waiting till spring, I think spring is going to be here pretty soon, the way this weather has been.
Yeah, my tulips are coming up in the yard.
So the 13th sounds good.
Sounds great.
All right, so we can potentially, unless there are further questions, entertain a motion to continue this. Well, I guess, is this really a hearing, a discussion with regard to file number 250-261 until March 13th?
So moved.
Motion made by Dan and seconded by,
Second.
I think Ron got the second. So roll call vote, starting with Ron and Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark and Dan.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So thank you, Ken, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
You bet.
You too. Thank you.
Mhm.
Our next item is in continued public hearings. It is file number 250-11130 East Hodges Street, notice of intent. And it looks like requested a continuance until March 13th. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Dan, seconded by Lisa. Roll call vote, beginning with Mark and Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
And Dan and Ron?
Aye. Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. That motion carries. Our next item is file number 250-1122, notice of intent 0 West Main Street. And do we have a representative of the applicant? You're on, okay, now you're not on mute. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Greg Driscoll from JD Civil here representing Douglas King Builders for 0 West Main Street. Since we last met, we've had a couple go rounds with Horsley and Witten, and I believe we have satisfied all the comments. I can go through the plan set real quick and highlight some of the changes. So revise the sediment control plan, took out the word erosion everywhere. The layout plan pretty much stays the same. We did include this area right in here. So
Yeah, I don't know if we can share, if you can share.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm like,
That's all right, Greg. You have
talking about like I'm sharing it already.
yeah,
Jeez.
you can share.
All right. All right, here we go. All right, so the way we left it last time, right before I submitted the plan set, I got feedback from Brad Holmes, the botanist, and John. They went out and met on site, walked the line, and they identified this area right in here between wetland flags 18 and A18 and A20 as proximate potential vernal pool. So I've since added that onto the plan and a buffer, 100-foot buffer to it. And that being said, I went ahead and revised the stormwater basin. So previously the stormwater basin came back into here a little bit more, and I was able to pull the grading and everything back of the stormwater basin. So the whole top of the berm and the basin itself are outside of the 100 feet to the potential vernal pool. Still works fine, still holds all of the volume runoff. We don't have an outlet control structure on either of these basins. Everything gets infiltrated. We do have, emergency spillway and a pipe for drawdown for maintenance of the basin if needed. And let's see. And also, as I said earlier, when I thought I was sharing my screen, we revised this sediment control plan, moved the word erosion, revised landscaping lighting plan for the changes to the basin. And I can go through some of the stuff from the review letters. I think the last one.
Yeah, Greg, if you just want to go over the last couple comments from the most recent
Yeah,
letter that HW sent over, I think that should be sufficient.
okay. And one of their comments that was regarding the riprap sizing calculations. We provided that those calculations in the drainage report, and they wanted me to update this detail to show the dimensions and everything that are in that calculation. So that's on that detail sheet right there. And this another thing we went back and forth on is the calculation of phosphorus removal, which we're in agreement on. Right, John? Also,
Yes, that is correct.
and let's see, comment number 9. Want me to revise the operation maintenance plan? So this one was, they wanted me to revise the operation maintenance plan to have the catch basins inspected quarterly. And I had missed that on sheet 5 of the plan set. And I did revise that as well. It's in these notes here. Really. In these notes here about the inspection, so it matches the O&M plan document that we had. And then from Ursula Winton's letter, if you want, I don't know if you want to go over, John, or I can, the recommendations for special conditions.
Yeah, they had some recommendations in that there for the condition pending the issuance of an order of conditions. And my recommendation is that the commission have those conditions in any order condition that would be issued for this project.
So,
But
there might
all
be questions.
all in all, I'd say that JDE Civil has met the 10 standards that are required. Obviously, there may be some minor tweaks and plan revisions that may need to be made, but I feel that, you know, at this time, we can definitely have that information secured pending either the next meeting, if the commission decides to close this meeting tonight. Also, it is a general condition that I usually put in an order that they provide an updated OMP before any pre-construction meeting.
And we'll have that signed by the owner at the time of before construction begins. I think the plan with this property is for Mr. King to get this approved through conservation and planning, and then I believe he's going to sell the property to the dentist's practice that will then go ahead and build it. So we can update the O&M plans and who the responsible party is and all those names and stuff in the future. Before that gets, you know, we have to provide a copy of this. Well, one of the recommendations was to provide a copy of the SWIP, the EPA SWIP, 14 days prior to land disturbing activities. So we can also make that, you know, update the O&M plans to make sure we have current owner information on there and responsible party information as a condition as well. But yeah, as far as plan changes, I think we're good. We will be going to planning board on, I think, the 14th. So we already have that submitted, and whatever might come out of that, we can.
All right, so any further questions from the commission or anyone else for that matter?
Greg, I think, if I remember this correctly, I think I had asked you about the location of that small infiltration basin along West Main Street, if you could possibly reorient that so that it's outside of the, I mean, if you turn it 45 degrees, I mean, is there any reason why it's oriented the way it is? Because it's intruding closer to the 25 foot. So,
Yeah, there is, and it is the distance from the septic system.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for reminding me.
Yep, no problem.
All right, from what I heard then, it seems that sufficient information has been submitted that we can consider closing, and then the additional information will be provided before the next meeting when we would consider an order of conditions. Did I get that right, John?
Oh, well, I don't think anything needs to be submitted as of right now, but
Oh, all right,
I'm
so,
saying that, yeah, I'm saying the commission can close the meeting this evening if they choose to do so. And then prior to any pre-construction, it's going to be in the conditions that they provide an updated O&M and any construction detail plans.
all right, so does the commission want to party with this project any longer, or should we close it?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for 250-1122.
Second.
We have a motion made by Lisa and seconded by Dan, I believe, to
Yes.
close a public hearing for file number 250-1122, and roll call vote beginning with Mark and Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
And Ron and Dan.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. Thank you, Greg. We'll be working on an order of conditions next meeting.
Okay, so between now and the next meeting, the order will be drafted, or?
Yeah, so what's going to happen, Greg, is I'm going to draft up an order.
Okay.
I'll probably send you over a draft, just kind of giving you an idea what's going to be in that order. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. Okay.
Okay, and if everything's good, do I need to be on that next meeting?
If you are confident and comfortable with everything, you do not need to be at the next meeting.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is file number 250-1119, notice of intent, 0 South Washington Street, also requested a continuance until March 13th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Dan, for continuing this hearing, 1119 until March 13th. Roll call vote, starting with Lisa and Dan.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark and Ron.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. Motion carries. Next item is, that completes our public hearings. Next item is a request for a 1-year extension for 65 Plain Street. That's map 18, parcel 7, file number 250-1033. And so I'm presuming there's no construction at the site at this point, and they're just asking for an extension. Is that what's going on, John?
They've done some land prep work. The erosion controls are in still. They have some delays with contractors and
Okay.
materials, so that's why they're asking for a continuance.
And there's no hesitation about issuing
No.
the extension. All right. So we're looking for a motion.
Make a motion to issue a 1-year extension to the order of conditions for file 250-1033.
Motion made by Lisa, and was that a Dan second?
Yes.
All right, seconded by Dan. Roll call vote, starting with Lisa and Dan,
Aye.
and Ron and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, the motion carries. The next item is review draft minutes of 123. I don't know if we have a quorum to be able to do that, because I know I was not present. I don't think Tama was. Does that leave at least
Yep.
4 of you?
That leaves 4 of them, Mark, Ron, Lisa, and Dan.
That's fine with me.
All right, any discussions about those minutes?
I mean, there's
Yep.
some little spelling things and, but it's not that big a deal.
All right, sounds like maybe a motion to accept the draft as submitted would be considered.
Yeah, I would make that motion. There's just a couple of typos we just want to clean up, that's all.
All right, you want to say them out loud and Megan will hear it?
They're underlined. You can actually see them.
Oh, that makes it easy.
I think one of them is the word maintenance. Where is
I
it?
always struggle with that word. I'm sorry. I don't know about anybody else.
What's the word?
Maintenance.
Maintenance.
Otherwise known
Oh,
as
yeah.
maintenance. No.
Maintenance, yes.
Oh, now I lost it. Anyway, it was just a typo. I just looked for typos. That's all.
Okay.
Well, speak-
So I will make a
speaking-
motion to approve the draft meeting minutes of January 23rd, 23.
All right, we have a motion made by Lisa and seconded by?
Second.
Second by Ron. So again, roll call vote. I abstain, but it'll be Lisa and Dan
Aye.
and Ron and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Minutes of January 23rd are approved with the minor changes. And speaking of words, I don't know how this occurred to me today, but the words vice and vice, V-I-C-E versus V-I-S-E, somehow it wasn't in the forefront of my brain that those are two separate words having to do with two separate meanings. I always thought it was all the same, but I must not have thought it was the same, because why would I ask the question? Wait a minute. Anyway, just an aside. So don't spell vice, but it's V-I-C-E. But anyway, the next item is February 13th meeting minutes. Nothing on it that I thought were needed correction. Any comments, questions? And we had, I believe, a full board, except for, unfortunately, the vacancy.
No, I had no comments either. So I make a motion to approve the draft meeting minutes of February 13th, 2023.
Motion made by Lisa and seconded by?
Second.
Seconded by Ron. So roll call vote, starting with Lisa and Dan,
Aye.
Aye.
and Ron and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carried. Minutes of February 13th are approved. And nothing standing out. Report from staff. Anything?
Yeah.
Dan, you want to?
Yes, this is important because it could come up in later meetings.
Okay.
When in doubt, just write VICE because according to the Oxford English Dictionary, VISE is just an alternate or an alternate spelling.
Yeah, but
So-
that's English. That's England.
Well,
and
all right,
you're not gonna. I'm gonna stick
here.
with VISE versus VICE with two different meanings. I mean,
Okay, well,
we're not going to consider. So you're going to say everything is VICE, but I don't think you'll find vice grips spell that at all.
Huh.
Um,
well, I'm looking at the Merriam-Webster, and they seem to agree with you. VISE is a tool with two jaws for holding work that typically close by a screw or lever.
Excellent.
Whereas, sure, they'll say vice is just naughtiness.
There was, well, no, it was not just naughtiness. I mean, we're
other
not going
stuff.
to call Lisa the naughty chair. We'll just.
All right, before this gets out of hand, I just want to get back to some other stuff. The town has requested funds to pay salaries. So they've requested $5,000 this year from our Wetlands Protection Fund to pay for Megan and I's salary. So I need a vote from the Conservation Commission to accept that transfer of funds.
Well, before we answer that, John, we have to ask a bunch of questions like we do every year, and that is, how much is in the fund?
Megan?
Who
I
did all the
believe
storm?
last I checked, it was 20,000.
Okay, so what we typically do is we look at, do we have any upcoming lawsuits? Do we have any upcoming issues that we have to deal with?
So luckily, we don't have any upcoming issues and no upcoming lawsuits that we're going to have to deal with.
Mhm.
May I ask a serious question at this point? Taking that 5,000 out to pay for your salaries, so does that mean that the 5,000 is going to go back to the town? I mean, is that their way of saying they want 5,000, which is actually part of the Conservation Commission's money?
Dan, I'm going to plead the fifth on this one.
Well, that makes no sense because
Well, it's
your salary should have already been appropriated. That shouldn't be.
Exactly. That's my point.
My question was going to be, what if we say no? Does that mean your salaries don't get
Yeah.
paid? Or
Typically, it's just been lobbed into the
Like
general
elsewhere.
fund.
I think in the past, if I remember correctly, we've just been asked if they can have our $5,000, and they haven't. It hasn't been framed in saying, well, can we pay for your salaries?
So the only thing that they can, I'm going to kind of put this in context so everybody understands. The funds from the conservation, not the conservation fund, because we don't have one. The funds from the Wetland Protection Act can only be serviced to do enforcement, pay for staff salaries, or be used towards administering the Wetlands Protection Act. Those are the only things that the funds can be used for. So those are the only ways that the town can request funds from the Conservation Commission. And since we don't have any enforcement issues as of right now, and we do not have any sort of vehicle right now, so I don't have anything towards that. But I'm just saying that, for instance, they have requested $5,000, and I'm looking towards the Conservation Commission to see what they want me to say back to them.
So in the past, the request has always been for the general fund. This is the first time it's been tied to your salary. So obviously,
So for instance, I'm trying to explain this to the commission that
Yeah.
it has been misinformed to you that because you cannot put wetland protection, you cannot allocate wetland protection funds towards a general fund. That's illegal. So I'm just saying.
They've been doing it that way for, well, or somebody's just been misinforming us in the form of the question. right?
And that probably have been the misinformation that was transferred. The funds are supposed to go towards the enforcement of the Wetlands Protection Act, which is to pay for staff salaries or pay for the administration and enforcement of the Wetlands Protection Act.
So I guess the next question is there money for which you are responsible, or which the Conservation Commission or the Conservation Board, however you want to look at it, is responsible, that is not part of the Wetlands Protection Fund?
So we do not have a conservation fund.
Okay, are there, okay, maybe I didn't say that.
Okay. I'm just
Well,
confused as to why your salaries weren't covered somewhere else, like everybody else's. So what does another board do with the planning board? If there's no, do they look to the planning board fund to pay the salaries? Isn't that all part of the budget that's established?
It's a good question. No, it's a good question, because it's been going on for a very long time.
Yeah.
And
So-
my question, I guess, to the board here is, my predecessor was the one that, had this occur in the past. And, the commission, I'm going to ask the same question to the board now, is that, did this ever come up, when 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago? I'm asking questions as to kind of
Yeah,
like, where's the money
Every
going?
single year, every
Yes.
single year, and it was couched as the commission, the board's looking for it to go to the general fund. So every year we took stock. Okay, do we owe anybody money? Do we have any upcoming, legal obligations? What does the landscape look like here?
Exactly.
But it was
So what
never
I would,
assigned to your salary, which I find very strange. I'm not a financial person. but
Well, I mean,
shouldn't that-
if it goes to the general fund, where's that money going?
No one told us ever what it was used for. And just-
I mean, I guess the
Can we get the town manager maybe on the next, or is this like an ASAP thing?
Yeah,
It'd
but
be
when,
interesting to know what the hell we're voting on. Why?
I mean, and in answer to that question, John, do you understand what I meant? What I meant was, I understand that whatever it was that you were speaking of, that wetlands money can only be used for salaries and so on and so forth. Are there any monies apart from that money which can only be used on salaries and wetland and the Wetlands Protection Act that have something to do with your the conservation office? Is there some other? Do you see what I mean? Is there some other monies for which the conservation office, with which the conservation office has something to do? Does that make sense? Am I making? Because that,
let me try to explain this. Is that each year we have fiscal year budgeting, and we allocate or we assign certain salaries for staff. That's every department here in town. We go through that
Right.
process, and that money comes from the general fund to pay all the employees for the town. So in essence, the money that went into the general fund for, however many years in the past, that could have gone, it's more specified to going to pay for my salary alone versus someone else's salary that's working for the town, because you cannot pay wetland protection funds towards planning director, towards, DPW, towards highway, towards that. It's not allowed. That's what I'm trying to get at. So by specifying that, for instance,
Okay.
it's specifically going to me to pay for my salary, it's an allowable use. Does that make sense?
and I'd like to comment at some point.
Sure.
I mean, this is a state law that, as I understand it, the town is obligated to administer locally. And that there are certain revenues raised through the activity of the state law. But the town does not get any other grant to administer this law. And the local property taxpayers have to pay the balance. So I personally, as a member of the commission, have no hesitation in
Mhm.
assigning some of the revenue that comes in from the fees levied through the state law to pay and defer the tax obligation of the residents of the town of Norton. So it's not, to me, it's like, this is a political decision. We need to show a willingness to help the general cost of running the government and the cost of running this locally administered law.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand it in context, Julian, because it's never been presented that way in the 20 years I've been on this board.
So MACC released a very good article back in like the mid 2000s, and it was like probably like a 4 or 5 page synopsis on what a conservation fund is, what the wetland protection fund is, and they went into great detail what you can use that money towards.
Yep.
And it identified in there is kind of what you can and cannot do with certain funds. And I don't know if that, was an oversight. I don't know if that was something that just wasn't ever brought up, but I'm trying to correct the solution here and correct the issue here, which is you can't just put money from the Wetlands Protection Act into a general fund to be allocated throughout the whole entire town. That's not what the Wetland Protection Act funds were supposed to be set up to do. They were supposed to enforce the Wetlands Protection Act. My job as the conservation director is to enforce the Wetlands Protection Act. So therefore, if the town elects to use money from that account to pay for part of my salary, then for instance you can do that, or to pay for part of Megan's salary, you can do that, because we're part of the conservation department and that's our job.
So perhaps it was just never explained to us correctly, John. That's all I can think of. That maybe
Right.
somebody said, oh yeah, it goes into the general fund, not knowing the nexus of, but it can only be used to pay for salary. So clearly, if there's not an issue, it's just never been explained to us that way. We just
And
thought it
that's
kind of vaporized.
that's what I'm trying to bring to the attention of the commission is that this is an acceptable thing to do. It's just I tried to correct it when I started here to make sure that, for instance, we were doing everything under ethics and laws and whatnot. So
Well, I think it's, as with statements that we put in orders of conditions and so on, we need to be factually correct. And this is, I think, an effort to be consistent with the requirements of the law and specifically specify this is not going anywhere. This is going specifically for the administration of the law under which we are collecting these fees. So I think they're just crossing their T's and dotting their I's, and it's so that nobody can say, look, this is not procedurally correct. So I have no problem with it.
Yeah. Now that you clarified it, and presented it this way instead of the same way it's been presented for 20 years. So anyway.
So I would need a vote from all the members
Mhm.
So I
in
think
favor. Yeah.
I think we can consider a motion to transfer, I guess, $5,000 from the Wetland Protection Fund to the specific salary account that would pay a portion of our director's salary.
I would just say conservation department.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I think in this case, Dan got the second. So motion by Lisa, seconded by Dan. So again, roll call vote starting with Lisa and Dan,
Aye.
and Ron and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. Other report from staff or other discussion item?
So we've had some issues with Edith Reed this past, what was it, Megan, last weekend?
Yeah, within the last 2 weeks.
We're setting up some more preemptive measures with video cameras and putting some more boulders up. I guess there was a big party going over at Eater 3 overnight. And they burnt some picnic tables, had a huge, massive bonfire. So we're doing everything we can to prevent it. I've talked to some people. Some people, have suggested that they donate things, and that's not the intent here. I think it's more so just bringing community awareness to the property and trying to make people aware that this is not a local hangout for those sort of activities, nor does the Conservation Commission condone those sort of activities on the premises after hours or at all. But it's just something, and we're actually planning on having an Earth Day event there the Saturday, April 22nd. We're going to have a kids scavenger hunt and trail walk. So that's something that we're planning on doing.
So, John, did you drive all the way through?
Yeah, so what they did was, I guess you can drive up on the left-hand side, and that's what they did. I guess they took a vehicle in there, had a bunch of pallets. I guess somebody said that they saw somebody doing some stuff that didn't seem right, and they called us the next day.
So have you notified the police so they can?
Yeah, the police are aware of the situation.
Okay, so are they going to patrol it on the weekends?
I think it was either Friday or Saturday night. They destroyed some stuff, and it was fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to see.
Yeah.
But I am having Highway put in some large boulders to prevent them from doing that, and I have a video camera surveillance equipment that I've ordered, so I'm just waiting for it to arrive, and hopefully we can prevent that.
Ben had cameras because they caught kids in the past.
The trail cams, yeah. I'm gonna actually have video surveillance cameras instead, so should be a little bit better.
I think this was indoors when she was fixing it up because the police came, the kids had to, basically, their parents were dragged into it and they had to go clean the place up. So, anyway, too bad.
Well, I'm sorry they destroyed stuff. That seems to me I don't know why they couldn't have just had their fun and not destroyed stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a pretty big question, but I have a question about activity on Reservoir Street. This was the parcel that came before us for review of the wetlands that bridges between Reservoir Street and Mansfield Avenue. You know the area I'm talking about, John?
Which one is this?
I don't remember the name, but the on Mansfield Avenue, it's has the frontage across from Norton Liquors, the old Norton Liquors.
So 93 Mansfield?
Yeah, and then the parcel goes all the way through to the Reservoir Street.
Yeah.
And there's now clearing and grubbing and tree cutting going on.
So those are separate lots. Those are lots that I went out there to take a look at to confirm whether they were within jurisdiction of the conservation.
Oh, right. That's kind of what I thought, is that they were restricting their activity to upland areas.
Yeah.
Only. All right. That's as long as you're aware of that.
Oh yeah, I'm aware of it. Any sort of land clearing or anything like that, I usually have an eye on.
Okay. All right. Any further items?
Megan, am I missing anything? Did we get any new applications?
We have one new application that I believe it's 13 Dean Street for the repair of a septic system that's going to come in front of us. But I also want to talk about in-person meetings because I know we were having issues where the library was telling us it was going to be at a later time. And I finally spoke to somebody about booking the room where our conservation office is. And we are able to book that out for our normal 6:30 times on Monday. So as long as the commission's okay with that.
Oh, I thought we weren't allowed. I'm confused.
It was the conference room downstairs that we're not allowed to do. The upstairs room right outside of our office is allowable. It's just smaller.
I just want
in
to,
general,
I just want
uh,
to say that Julian has a very agile cat in the background.
yeah, I know, it's my daughter's cat who's
So where
kind of
we
like a
used to be-
3-year-old.
So
Running,
we
running.
met for years then, right? The tables,
Yes, that's the place.
okay. Okay,
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's not a crazy meeting, we generally were able to accommodate meetings there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens come March 31st. That's when the governor needs to make a decision on whether to continue this grace period of having these Zoom meetings or if we need to go back in person.
I'm just praying for remote because I just picked up a new project in Gloucester and God help me. I do not want to drive to the Gloucester Con. But anyway,
They have a great art museum.
You could send your chatbot.
yeah. Anyway, I'm praying for remote. So,
Going to Gloucester every day?
no, for Concom hearings, for meetings with the client, yada, yada, for the next 8 months.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah. I need to move.
You need a boat.
Yeah. So, anyway.
All right, well, unless they're pressing items, this cat finds computers to be entertaining. That's why he's hanging around.
How are you feeling, Julian?
I'm doing quite well.
That's good.
I'm not ready to go back to building houses in Madagascar, but things are coming along.
Good.
Mhm.
Are we ready for a motion?
So move, make that motion to adjourn at 7:29.
Second.
Yes, not bad. All right. So before this cat knocks over my computer, we're gonna sign off.
Okay.
All right,
Morning.
everybody, enjoy the snow tomorrow.
Oh, yes. All right.
Good
Be
night.
safe.